We want to welcome totalnews.com, grassroots50.com, many other people. Last time we were on, we had over 8 million people. Hopefully we beat that this time.
This meeting is being recorded.
Today we have a special presentation by Cleta Mitchell, the U.S. Citizens Election Bill of Rights. Cleta has the Election Integrity Network. She was an Oklahoma House representative and Who's Counting podcast. She's one of the top stars in this country. Many people said if it wasn't for Cleta, we wouldn't have won this election, because when she comes on, she brings on the best from all over the country to let you know what's going on. So Cleta, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. Happy New Year to everybody. We have done a lot over the last 4 years. Citizens, patriots all over this country who said, after they watched what happened in November of 2020, said, what just happened? And we're never going to let that happen again. And so people have, I know all of you have done things in your local communities and in your states on doing various things to try to make certain that the election process is something that is conducted lawfully and that is not manipulated for a particular outcome. So one of the things I think the takeaway that I have from 2024 is that President Trump is a life force unlike anyone we've seen, certainly that I've seen in my lifetime, or that America is likely to see again for a very long time. But we cannot count, because President Trump is not going to be on the ballot again. And I think that that makes a huge difference in terms of what we need to do now to make certain that in 2026 and 2028 and 2030, excuse me, and in those off-year elections in the states, that we look carefully at the election system, the election process, and that we fix the problems that have been identified by volunteers all over the country. And that's what I'm going to share with you. We're going to go through this U.S. Citizens Elections Bill of Rights. And this Bill of Rights really came from the work of citizens all over the country working these last 4 years in their local election offices and in state election integrity coalitions and in local election integrity task forces, and pulled all of this together. And this is what we think, this is with input from hundreds of people who want to keep tweaking it. By the way, I keep saying we have to stop tweaking this, and we've got to focus on our legislators and our Congress. The president, even yesterday at his press conference at Mar-a-Lago, was talking about changes in election procedures so that the ballots can be tabulated by 10, 11 o'clock on election night. And we know that there are some states where they count for weeks, and that allows them to manipulate the outcome. So I'm going to go through these because I think it's really important for people who are interested in saving our country to understand that if we do not continue to drive out the leftist control of our election systems, our election offices, the left has built a network of hundreds and hundreds of well-funded groups whose sole focus is on different parts of the election system. And we are never going to have their money. We're never going to have the number of groups that they have. The only way we're going to be able to overcome them is by citizen engagement at the local and state level, and getting our members of Congress to understand that there are several federal statutes that must be changed. There are 5 federal laws that need to be overhauled if we are to reclaim our elections. And I'll give you a little, one of the things that's happened just in the last week is that the Speaker and the Senate leadership have both decided to put the SAVE Act, which Safeguarding American Voter Eligibility, which requires proof of documentary proof of citizenship in order to vote in U.S. elections. It passed the House in July, and they're going to put they reintroduced, Congressman Chip Roy has reintroduced the House bill. Senator Mike Lee has reintroduced the Senate companion bill. And the goal is to put the SAVE Act on a fast track to be hopefully to be passed and put on President Trump's desk when he's inaugurated. That requires on the Senate side doing something in one of the reconciliation bills. I don't know if they're going to have one or two, but election integrity needs to be part of one of those. But I want to go through these principles and urge you to visit the website. You can find all of this at www.votefair2026.com. That's votefair2026.com. The first principle is that only U.S. citizens should participate in our elections. That means registration. It means voting. It means making certain that everybody who is on the current voter rolls should have their citizenship status confirmed. The Social Security Administration needs to start confirming citizenship status when they verify identity and residency. The Department of Homeland Security needs to provide to states and local agencies of government the citizenship status of people who are on the voter rolls. We need to eliminate any voter registration taking place anywhere except at the DMV or the election office, and get rid of the social services agencies and all the federal agencies who are unlawfully registering people to vote for Biden, which is what the whole purpose of his executive order in 2021 was about. We need to make sure that the census asks the question about whether or not the people are U.S. citizens. And we need to make citizenship the basis for apportioning the House seats and electoral college votes. Because right now what we have is a situation where the House of Representatives is apportioned based on total population and not just citizens, which is why California continues to maintain and retain House seats that it should have lost if only citizens were counted for purposes of apportionment. And as I said, that's not just U.S. House seats, that also means electoral college votes. We need to prohibit foreign money in state issue campaigns. It's already illegal for any one who's not a U.S. citizen to make or give any expenditure or contribution to any candidate or campaign or to any political party. However, that does not include state issue campaigns, and we've seen millions of dollars flowing into state issue campaigns, ballot issue campaigns from foreign sources, and we have to stop that. And we have to prohibit foreign ownership of any company that produces any kind of voting equipment, software, voting paper, any component part used in any voting system. We have to restore the integrity of the citizenship requirement in every aspect of voting in America. Number two, we need voter ID for all voters. But the voter ID that is accepted needs to be a voter ID that is proof of citizenship. Student IDs are accepted in all but 5 states. You do not have to be a citizen of the United States to get a student ID. You don't even have to be a resident of the state to get a voter ID, a student ID. So we need to start looking carefully at these forms of identity that states have adopted because they were trying to appease the left. You can never appease the left. So we need to have photo ID for all voting, but the voter ID that is accepted needs to be one that verifies citizenship. The president has said that he wants all voting to take place on election day. That is possible, but we have to go back to precinct voting if we're going to make that, if we're going to really implement what the president said he wants. I personally would be willing to allow for 5 days of early in-person voting in exchange for making sure that only certain people are allowed to vote by mail. Go back to absentee voting was for people who were going to be absent and could not make it to the polls. We have to have that as the basic principle. We have to eliminate same-day registration. And we must, if we would return to precinct voting, reconcile the number of voters to the number of ballots issued at the precinct and reconcile that to the number of votes. And we do that at all the precincts before it goes to the county, do that at the county before it goes to the state. We can make certain that we have accuracy in the voting. And right now we do not have the systems in place in America anymore to confirm accuracy. That's one of the things the left got rid of. And we need to return to that basic component system to make sure that our elections are accurate, that the results are accurate. Number 4, we need to confirm citizenship, identity, and residency of all who are registered now, and we have to have rigorous voter roll maintenance. We have to get rid of those federal obstacles in federal law that keep states from being able to maintain their voter list and clean their voter rolls. There are so many roadblocks that the federal statute has put in place that we have to return to. We have to get rid of that because that's a real incursion into the state's ability to maintain and good voter rolls and have honest elections. And we have to make sure that we let citizens, there's so many of you may be part of an effort in your local area to clean voter rolls. And we always are up against Mark Elias and in fact, the Justice Department to stop cleaning voter rolls. I'm certainly hoping that the new Trump Justice Department will reverse that and will sue states for not cleaning voter rolls, which has not been done in the 32 years that the National Voter Registration Act has been in effect. They've only sued states who try to clean voter rolls. They never sue states for not cleaning voter rolls, and that needs to change. We have within each of these principles several bullets. I'm not going to read every one of them. You can look and read those yourselves. I'm just going to hit the high points. We have to replace all vulnerable, insecure voting technology and go to pre-printed paper ballots on secure paper, and we have to provide for hand marking of those paper ballots. I mean, those systems exist, but any technology, any voting system that has any capability of having remote access needs to be prohibited by law. We need to get rid of those ballot marking devices. We need to get rid of those touch screens and QR codes. And we need to make certain that the technology that's in place is only that those kinds of technologies were really only supposed to be used for disabled voters. But now, like in Georgia, they use them for everybody. And we know how insecure they are. And we know that when CISA tells us that election infrastructure is critical infrastructure because it can be hacked by Iran and other countries, and that has caused CISA to metastasize in its incursion into elections. You get rid of all of that, a huge agency and hundreds of millions of dollars in wasteful spending, if you just get rid of the voting technology that is insecure and allows for remote access. We have to get rid of that and allow for people to hand mark paper ballots. If we are voting by precinct, we know exactly how many people in the precinct are registered to vote, who could show up to vote. And so you don't need to have situations where the election, the polling place, people are running down to Staples to print ballots. This is not a good system, and yet it's still happening across the country. We have to prohibit internal modems and all remote access capability. We should have mandatory public pre-election testing of any technology, and you have to have a system that allows for manual confirmation of any technology used. Like, for instance, with tabulators, fine to use an electronic tabulator if it's just plugged into the electrical outlet, but has no capability of remote access. But you have to be able to confirm by counting the number of paper ballots that have been tabulated. And then you look at the tabulator tape and make sure that those numbers match. You have a manual confirmation. That's really important. And Number 6, we need to confirm the accuracy of election results. I mentioned that by having pre-certification and require post-election independent audits. We have to have a system where you don't have the election officials auditing themselves in fake audits and have real audits conducted by real auditors after every election that are not the election officials, but is the state auditor or some independent auditor, but is not the election officials themselves. We need to ensure transparency of elections and election records, making certain that there's a private right of action. Right now, under the Federal Election Records Act, the only person who can file any kind of an action is the Attorney General of the United States. So obviously that wasn't happening after 2020. So we need to make sure that that doesn't ever happen again, that all election records are public and published and available at no cost to the public so that we can keep an eye on, by looking at all those records and having all those citizens being able to have access and look at all of those records, that we can make sure that that's another way to be hold accountable the election officials, and to provide civil and criminal penalties if they destroy or withhold election records. We saw a lot of that after 2020. Number 8, we need to protect our military voters, and we need to do that by separating the overseas military from the overseas civilian voting system. Right now, what's happened is what was intended to be a system to help our military voters has become completely dominated by civilians. And the Democrats and the left-wing groups so they've seen the huge vulnerability. They don't even, to vote as an overseas citizen under the system today, you don't even have to prove that you live overseas. You don't have to prove that you're a citizen. You can, and the Democratic National Committee spent millions of dollars getting people to vote from overseas. And that's going to end up, I promise you that when the final numbers are in, it's going to be over 70% of the overseas vote will be civilian, not military. So we need to have the DOD managing the military vote to make sure that all deployed military are able to vote with ease. And then we need to move the civilian part to the State Department and make sure that those people are voting. They have to, who want to vote, prove that they're citizens by providing a copy of their passport and a copy of their overseas address. And if they don't have any attachment to the state, to any state, they should be allowed to vote and have their ballots cast for president as part of the District of Columbia. We need to stop billionaire concocted election schemes, because we need to make certain that right now we have ranked choice voting and all of these different the national popular vote, these things that are really unconstitutional, and they're funded by billionaires. And we wouldn't even have to be dealing with this, except that they have the money to put them on the ballot. And we need to stop these things and protect one person, one vote, and protect our American constitutional framework. And finally, we need citizens who should have standing to bring actions to enforce the election laws. And we need to protect our election statutes from being attacked by the Mark Elias lawfare network of hundreds of left-wing litigation groups who just attack our duly enacted laws and get unelected judges or elected judges to superimpose their will for that of the duly elected legislators. So it's really important. This is a procedural thing that I think states need to adopt. I think the federal standing laws need to be strengthened to ensure that the members of Congress have standing. The federal court in Pennsylvania ruled in a suit brought in September and ruled just in early October that 6 Republican members of Congress did not have standing to try to make the Pennsylvania election officials ensure that they followed the law and made certain that anybody allowed to vote under UOCAVA was actually a resident of Pennsylvania and a citizen of the United States. The judge said 6 congressmen had no standing. So we have to address that. So those are the principles. I hope that you'll download those, that you'll talk to your legislators, get involved. If you'd like to get involved with helping to get these principles enacted into law and you want to be part of that, Steve, I guess the best thing to do would be to sign up. We could do a sign up through through your organization, through Precinct Strategy. And we want people to take these and try to put pressure on our officials to get these things done. And with that, I will stop.
Give them how to contact you, and they can contact you to get involved also.
Okay, my email address is cleta@cletamitchell.com. It's very simple. And if you'd like to get involved in your state, or just send to me, tell me what state you're in, and I'll get you connected with the election integrity group in your state. So cleta@cletamitchell.com. Would love to have your help. We've got to fix these elections before 2026, so we can make sure that the left doesn't manipulate the outcome in 2026 and cause President Trump to lose control of the House or Senate. So with that, thank you, Steve, for letting me
Thank you,
participate.
Cleta. Fantastic job. I'm sure people are going to have questions. Next up is Marley Hornick from United Sovereign American.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Steve and Raj, for having me on today. I wanted to share with everyone some updates about United Sovereign Americans for the next 18 months and the focus of our work. Similar to Election Integrity Network, we are highly concerned about the 2026 midterm process. And we have been concerned about that. And that is why, again, going back to our litigation update, that's why we filed 9 federal lawsuits in 2024. These are mandamus lawsuits. So we've asked the courts to order state and federal officials to comply with existing law. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? I'm going to go ahead and refresh everybody. I'm sure y'all have seen these slides before, but let's just refresh our memory about some of the findings of United Sovereign Americans in our forensic audits of the 2022 midterm. And we are currently in the process of peer reviewing all of our 2024 audits. I'm sorry. So do expect that we'll be able to provide you some information about those elections as well, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, without everything getting cleaned up, we're dealing with a lot of the same issues. And in fact, now that we've gotten so savvy with our audits, we found a lot more troubling findings. But again, going back to our aggregate report in 2022 for just 7 states, this is for California, New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, and Georgia. We found 23 million apparently ineligible voter registrations in the statewide voter registration list at the time the election was administered. These are individuals who, according to the official record, are, things like registered to vote before they were born, registered to vote with no address whatsoever, and other obvious and basic infirmities in their registration data that the state has to correct or remove before someone can be considered qualified to vote. In 2022, 7 million votes were cast by these registration records. 1.4 million more votes were counted than those 7 states recorded voters having voted. And there was, in the end, an 18% rate of clerical error, if we are to accept that excuse, in those 2022 midterms. So obviously, looking at 2026, 2022 was a midterm election. We're looking at another one coming up. We can't have this happening for so many reasons. Certainly, we would like our president to be able to do his work. But more than anything, if we remember back to the 3rd sentence of the United States Constitution, the entire reason that the people of the several states are authorized as those who will choose their own representatives is for the protection of individual liberty. It's not actually for the benefit of any particular politician or any political party. It is for the individual liberty and perpetuity of every American to live according to their conscience as long as they obey the law. Remember also in 2022, we ran United Sovereign Americans, our credentialed volunteers, our experts ran a prevalence study of the verifiability of voters in those 7 states. And we found shocking numbers of voters who cannot be found in databases, top quality commercial databases used by law enforcement and collections officers to find people in time and space. We found out of those 7 states over 2 million voters who do not appear to exist at all. They can't be found in those databases. And nearly 5 million voters who voted from an address that they either never lived at or they didn't live at within a year period surrounding the election. Finally, if you remember, we also looked at the way that the certified results of elections get altered over time, and running a very gross analysis on that particular subject. We found over 3 million votes in those 7 states that were either altered, added, or deleted after the election was certified. So makes one wonder, if the election was accurate when it was certified, why did it change 3 million times? If it was not accurate at the time of certification and it needed to be edited or updated, why was it certified? So again, that's a summary of how USA looks at these issues and makes our arguments. And those are, that's a summary of the arguments that were brought to federal court in 9 states in 2024 by United Sovereign Americans acting in conjunction with various voters and more than a handful of congressional candidates in 2024. Now, one thing I want everyone to remember is that those are not just anomalies in the data. When looked at criminally, the Supreme Court has upheld convictions for election officials who certified false counts in a single election precinct multiple times throughout our history in 1888, in 1941, in 1973. And our expectation is that they will again, because we are launching our 2nd phase of our comprehensive litigation strategy. It's our observation that talking with congressional representatives and talking with election officials is a very important thing to do. But if you really want to change the playing field, you have to sue them. And, you know, as many of you probably noticed, on election day, there were roughly 18 million votes fewer than the 2020 election on election day. And many people have attributed that not only to the too big to rig phenomenon, but also to the forensic auditing of the marauder inside of the election system by United Sovereign Americans and the historic effort by citizens, since everyone at USA is a volunteer. This is a citizen-led effort in bringing those findings to federal court in 9 states. Certainly something never before attempted by citizens, a historic and monumental achievement. And those lawsuits continue through the courts, and we continue to feel very optimistic about getting a split in the circuit decisions. The Texas lawsuit was attempted. There was a motion to intervene on behalf of the defendants by the League of Women Voters and the NAACP in Texas because they claim that they have been duly registering voters and that USA is asking for voters to be removed from the records. But in fact, we asked for nothing of the sort, and the judge did not allow them to intervene. Apparently, he did read the case and they didn't. So we continue very positive and hopeful that we're going to get at least a fair ruling in the state of Texas from Judge Kaczmarek in the 5th District. And our new litigation strategy has to do with not just asking for the law to be obeyed, but now we feel it's time for accountability. Again, these are adjudicated crimes under criminal law, and we are forging new territory, new legal territory, and seeking to adjudicate these crimes under civil law, asking for the courts to view these harms and these continuing corruption of our elections by officials who simply refuse to fix them after having been not only reported to by USA, but probably by everyone on this call as well. So we're asking for them to be viewed as having deprived our rights acting under color of law, which is a statute that was created in 1871 for all citizens to enforce the protection of our constitutional rights. And this is a new lawsuit. We're very excited about it. We're in drafting stages. We have agreements with new attorneys. We continue to work with Bruce Castor on the mandamus lawsuits, and we're forging new territory here with another set of attorneys that are very enthusiastic about working on this process with us. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is how USA, we're expanding our volunteer opportunities and we're expanding our organization of those opportunities. So we really want to invite people to come and get involved. Our lawsuits turn on citizen advocacy and participation. The resolution process that hundreds and thousands actually of US citizens participated in across the United States in 2023 and 2024 will continue. Starting around February 1st, we will be updating those resolutions with 2024 information. Why are you going to go bring the resolution again? Because the problem isn't fixed yet. That's why. And the problem is clearly outlined and stated in the resolution, which is that the states don't clearly know who the voters are because they're not verifying identity or eligibility. The states give ballots to people that they haven't verified, which is the definition of election fraud under criminal statute. And they certify false tallies because they continually count votes that are not provably legitimate. And this dilutes the vote of eligible qualified citizen voters. And there are two ways that the courts have looked at dilution of the vote. This is not regarding apportionment. This is under the criminal definition, under criminal statute, dilution of the valid vote through invalid ballots procured by fraud. So we're not saying that the election officials are committing fraud outright, that there is malice. We're saying that they are failing so massively to prevent fraud that the result is the same. They have to be held personally accountable. And the law allows for that to take place, and that lawsuit is being drafted. So our advocacy opportunities not only include the resolution process, we are going to be taking our legislative proposal that has to do with prevalence audits being conducted throughout the election process in real time, matching to a great degree a lot of the forensic auditing we've already done and a lot of the arguments we've already created. We're going to be bringing this legislative proposal to state legislators on February 25th of 2024. So if you want to be a part of that effort, please go to uniteforfreedom.com and sign up to be a volunteer, and we'll get you right into that program. We're also going to be taking our legislative proposal to Congress, and we are going to be making a large group of citizen advocates. So if you want to be a part of a trip to DC to advocate for prevalence audits and transparency throughout the election process with United Sovereign Americans, same thing, go to uniteforfreedom.com and sign up to be a volunteer with us. We're going to be holding a national training conference in election validity on April 4th through 7th. So mark your calendars. Likely locations for that are going to be St. Louis and or Dallas, trying to look for a central location with a lot of air travel possibilities. And so we're just pricing out some conference centers now, and we'll be right back to you to let you know about the full details for that. But mark your calendar, save the date, April 4th through 7th. We are going to be offering nationally open to the public a training conference in constitutional law, federal election law, and election validity. We'll be talking about our, we'll be talking about our legislative initiatives and also our litigation at that time as well. So I thank everyone for your time and attention. I invite everyone to be a part of United Sovereign Americans. We not only need to restore the validity of our elections, we need to renew our engagement in our civic processes. I applaud everyone here who has already been doing that. And I invite you to join with United Sovereign Americans to leverage an organization that is creating a national movement for election validity. Bring your people, bring your organization. We'll collaborate and work together. We don't want to co-opt you. We just want to collaborate and win together. Thank you so much. Also, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Marley, the CEO of United Sovereign Americans. And I believe Harry Howery, our chairman, is also going to be on this call in a little bit, but I got to run and pick up my kids.
What's your email if they want to read?
Our email address for the organization is info@uniteforfreedom.com. Number4freedom.com.
Thank you very much, Marley. Go get your child. And Nilsa Alvarez from Faith and Freedom is up.
Yes, and right before Nilsa comes on, I want to just draw everyone's attention to this very important event that's taking place very shortly here. This is the second annual event, and it's going to be at Trump International Golf Club. I'll ask Steve to make a few comments on this, but it is taking place on March 3rd, 2025. I was there for the first one that we had. It is first a tremendous time to network with like-minded people. This venue brings the best of the best to this location. There are going to be speakers. There is a fantastic golf course, obviously, at Trump standards. So you don't want to miss this. Please spread the word. Steve, you want to talk a little bit more about this event?
Let's get
and how they
Nilsa
get
on,
registered for it?
and if we have some time, when she's out, we'll do it, because Gerald Flynn is, next, and he has to be on right on time.
Copy that. Sounds good. Thank you for your attention. Please save the date, March 3rd, 2025. Nilsa, thanks for your patience. Over to you.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to just be with y'all today and discuss so many important things. And thank you for just everything you do to help keep America great, right? And to fix everything that Biden broke. So thank you so much. And so I'm Nilsa Alvarez. I'm the National Director for the Hispanic Faith and Freedom Coalition. It's basically the Hispanic division for the coalition to help engage, network, and grow our grassroots of Hispanic ministries, charities, organizations, grassroots leaders throughout the country who are growing at a wonderful rate in support of conservatives down the ballot. So all I really have to share today, because I'm not one of the national security experts like so many on this call, just wanted to share an update because Steve wanted me to share an update on, what our focus on is on going in with our organization moving forward. As you know, we have a lot to do and a lot to get done with our new incoming awesome administration for the next 2 years. And we have to gain or retain that majority in Congress so that we can have an epic second Trump term. So in that, we're already getting ready for 2026. To those of you who are totally involved in helping secure the vote, please continue to grow the grassroots that God has given you for poll watchers, everyone holding our legislators accountable when it comes to certification of elections, et cetera, election integrity. Please keep doing that. I think we're all just a different organ in this beautiful body, right, of America. And if we all keep focusing on what God has given us a passion to protect and to uphold, I think we're going to see another amazing too big to rig victory in 2026. So going into that, I wanted to share that you can look up a recent article that came out from Newsweek showing how if we continue the momentum we have with Republicans and of course with the Trump momentum, we have the ability to maintain the majority going into 2026. So for Democrats, they would have to hold the 13 seats that are up for grabs in the Senate. They would have to hold that. If they lose any of those 13 seats, we can just clean sweep like we did, almost like hopefully at a bigger margin than we did this past cycle. So we're going to be providing with our organization at the Faith and Freedom Coalition a map in the kind of like a map where a lot of the focus and attention is going to go to election wise going into 2026 so that we can help occupy flip seats and also retain Republican seats. So I just wanted to let you know that that's coming. So as soon as I have that, I'm going to share that with Steve and everybody here so that y'all can see that like little heat map going into 2026 so that we can retain the majority. Other than that, one of our focuses continues to grow, the battleground states. As you know, when it came to the Hispanic vote, all Trump needed was 40% of the Hispanic vote. He got 46%. I'm going to tell you why it's not bigger than what it than what it was. It was supposed to be bigger than 46%, and I'll tell you why. Because if we were to have as much presence in Hispanic media, and when I say that, I mean all of your organizations, if you have anything coming out in Spanish, if we were to have more presence, our conservative message, have more presence in Hispanic local media, we will see an impact in higher numbers for Republicans down the ballot and Trump again. I mean, the Trump momentum again. That's what I mean, because I know it's his second term. Anyways, going into that, just one of the issues we have when it comes to mobilizing the Hispanic vote is conservatives and conservative organizations do not invest as much in Hispanic local media and national media the way the Democrats do. They're always present. So here's the thing: every election cycle, we're outnumbered 3-0, literally 3-0. There's Democrat spots 3 times by the hour, prime time, every station in the Hispanic world. Republicans, not one message in a lot of the battleground areas. Many of them sorted to digital. Florida candidates do a great job with Hispanic media. They're like the exception, but it's crazy how there's very little to no conservative messaging going into Hispanic media. So if there's something that we can change and that we can all team up on going into 2026 and so forth, please have your people talk to your people about putting towards Hispanic conservative messaging. We can help you. I have a translation team. I actually run a translation company. So we're constantly, we've actually been helping multiple conservative organizations translate and make sure their message is resonating in Spanish and according to the Hispanic demographic that they're targeting. So feel free to contact me. Again, Nilsa Alvarez with the Hispanic Faith and Freedom Coalition. Happy to serve.
Thank you very much. We're waiting for General Flynn. Let's go back to that flyer, Raj.
Great, stand by. Bring the flyer back on. While I'm bringing that on, Steve, you just want to give some details about how people can get registered for the event?
Yep. As soon as you stick it on, and I'm back and forth with Melissa and General Flynn, so let's see what's going on. Okay, so the first thing is on March the 3rd, this is going to be like a 3-pronged event. While the people are playing golf from 7 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock, from 10 to 1, we're going to have 20 election security people live at the event, and that'll last till 1 o'clock. At 1 o'clock, we have asked Steve Bannon, who is going to let us know if he can come, Tom Homan, some of the Trump people. There's about 6 people that have been asked. We have a couple of speakers already. That'll last from 1 to 4. If anybody wants information, just give me a call. My number's on there. We'll put that. Can you put that in the chat?
I can.
All right, so we'll throw that in the chat. You can email me. You can come in there. If you want to play golf, you can get a foursome. We have a lot of people flying in from all over. Last year's event was oversold. We're only allowed to have 220 people there. The course is phenomenal. The people are fantastic, and the food is great. All right, I don't see General Flynn, so why don't we get, he's running a few minutes late, said. You want to talk about your events that coming up?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll make a few announcements here.
Go ahead.
So a couple of things. One, this Saturday in Orlando, if you're in the area, if you're not, I encourage you to make the drive. There is going to be a protest rally. Okay, well, what are we protesting? So the Republican Party of Florida has, through a series of decisions, suspended the membership of a number of Republican Executive Committee members. As best we can tell, it appears that the members that have been suspended are Republicans who are taking an America First perspective. And so it's unfortunate this has happened. It is imperative that people voice their displeasure about these decisions, especially when there's so many other critical things like you've heard on this call so far that need to be handled and leadership needs to be provided. So if you would like to have your voice heard on this important matter, please make plans to attend this event. And I'm going to put some information on the screen here in just a moment. But please make plans to attend this event. This is coming this Saturday, October 10th. This Saturday, which is not October, January 10th. So please put that on your calendar so you can attend that. Let me give you that date again. It is Saturday, January 11th. Saturday, January 11th, this Saturday in Orlando. Okay, so that's one event. I'm going to put some information here on the screen so you can refer to that. The next thing I want to draw to your attention as well, it's not per se in the election security space, but I'm going to mention it to you anyway. And that is Anthony Fauci is going to be speaking at the Sarasota Van Wezel Performing Arts Center. The tickets are selling fast at $239 a pop. There are a lot of Americans that are very disappointed in the leadership that he provided that resulted in policies being made with massive unintended consequences, to say the least, from his policies. And so there is going to be an effort to make sure that there is again, a protest here in Sarasota at that time. Please put that on your calendars. That is going to be on April 14th. April 14th is when Anthony Fauci is scheduled to speak here in Sarasota, Florida. All right. So,
Raj, let's get Greg on. General Flynn said he'll come on at 3. He's tied up on a phone call with some
copy that. Sounds good. Excellent. Greg, you have the floor. Please proceed.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, Greg, we'll get you on until General Flynn is ready. You said about 3 o'clock, so go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, there's quite a bit to talk about, including General Flynn. Thank you for having me on, Steve. For those new here and those returning, I'm Gregory Stenstrom. I'm the co-author of The Parallel Election and a co-defendant with President Trump, Leah Hoops, where we successfully defended ourselves against a defamation lawfare suit brought against President Trump and us, using a truth as a complete defense. And truth is a complete defense that there was massive election fraud in 2020. There continued to be election fraud in 2022. And in 2024, I think our country survived a concerted effort to steal that election as well. And thanks to people like Steve, Raj, the podcasters that are broadcasting this information was critical to ensuring President Trump did win the election. And the information that's available here really only comes from alt news. You won't see this on the mainstream media. And we need to continue to support President Trump, his incoming staff, U.S. Attorney General Bondi, Elon Musk, Kash Patel coming in with the FBI, and I hope General Flynn, who's up next. I understand he's top of the list for the National Security Advisor again. Although it's been quiet, I do hope to see him in a position like that to continue winning for President Trump. So to provide you an update. And I'm going to be watching the time here, Steve. To provide you an update, the biggest update we have here is we have a SCOTUS case called the Justice Secured Writ, otherwise known as In Re Gregory Stenstrom et al. And we have 24 petitioners across the state of Pennsylvania. Leah Hoops is a name a lot of you are familiar with. John Marietta, Melanie Patterson, Carrie Hahn. There's quite a few people, Jeannie White, Christine Height, just a lot of names that were at the forefront of election integrity in Pennsylvania are participants in this suit and petitioners. And what the suit is all about is it asks the Supreme Court to order the Department of Justice to rescind its unlawful policies, not to investigate election fraud until after certification. There's a small group that I wrote an article called The Council, who runs the United States of America. You can find it in intelligencer.today. that is the root cause for much of what ails our country. And that root cause is that the DOJ, by not investigating election fraud, and yet saying they do, they control a lot of different things. They allow the perpetration, the ability to continue with unqualified electors as registered voters, and they conflate them. They prosecute cases like that. They also, by not investigating, they make it very, very difficult when people hear there's no evidence. We've got plenty of evidence of election fraud throughout the country, both here in Pennsylvania and in every state. We have evidence of election fraud. However, when the DOJ says, "Oh, there's no evidence of election fraud," and they haven't investigated, makes it very, very difficult. That's when you'll hear courts will say, "Well, there's no evidence." It's not that there's no evidence. There's no evidence that it's been investigated by the DOJ. So this case, which is on the docket and which will be heard in conference this coming Friday, January 10th, this will be heard in conference by the Supreme Court. They're going to determine, whether to grant the order, move forward with oral arguments and other remedies to order the DOJ to do their jobs, which they're required to do under federal statute. If we get that order, and I do think we will get it, we should get it, then that will remove a lot of the things that were brought up by Cleta Mitchell earlier that we need to solve legislatively. It will remove some of the obstacles that Marley Hornick talked about earlier, and some of the people that are coming on here, some of the things that we faced. So that case is very important. A couple of other updates in that case is we've identified throughout the government, we'll call it a nomenclature or a class of bureaucrats that have been systemically installed throughout government that procedurally block cases from being heard from the courts, whether that's federal courts, lower courts, that administratively block advocacy and the addressing of grievances by the public. And having identified this nomenclature, Steve Bannon has been talking on his show most recently, really using the word muzzle velocity and saying, while we have the muzzle velocity, some of which President Trump is expending on the Gulf of America, Greenland, Canada, and so forth, that muzzle velocity of moving quickly to establish his agenda, we want to use some of that muzzle velocity to address the bureaucratic administrative state and those actors that have blocked these cases from being heard. We know who those people are. We know how they cheat. We know that they cheat using unauthorized code of machines, co-opted electronic machines, mail-in ballots, using registered voters who are not qualified electors. I think the biggest thing that they've done to steal the vote is create these centralized counting centers, which we'll be addressing. And also that the nomenclature and the bureaucrats I'm talking about have obstructed transparency and accountability by obstructing audits and public records. We talk about that on the Big Con at www.parallelelection.com. The Big Con. We talk about how they cheat, and we know how they do cheat. So what they've done, and I think one of the things that's happened here, a lot of people are going, "Hey, we won the election. What do we do now? I mean, everything's good, right?" Well, no, it's not good. They must maintain the status quo. This nomenclature, the council, and the people that intend to keep control of our country and thwart President Trump and America First and MAGA. In order to do that, they must maintain control over the elections. They must take those 3 special elections that are going to be held for upcoming congressional seats for people that are going to the cabinet. They must take the Congress back in 2026. And the only way to do that is to maintain control over our elections. That's why we need to put the pedal to the metal down now. So their strategy has been to isolate, contain, and destroy. Ours is to connect, engage, and restore. That's what we're doing here. That's why it's so important what Steve Stern is doing, Raj, having people like Cleta Mitchell come on here and General Flynn, and having their advocacy and their continued attention to the elections. So right now, we need to just do a few things. We need to put the pedal to the metal down, stay connected on these meetings and these grassroots groups. Don't shy away. Everyone here has heard of what a Sunshine Patriot is. The Sunshine Patriot, they're leaving the battlefield now. They showed up to take the credit, but they're already leaving, which makes our jobs easier. We've got to keep the pedal metal. We got to keep focused and keep the pressure on with lawsuits, FOIAs, right to knows, and we have to stay on top of our local election officials and our local boards of elections. That's what we need to do. Most of the people here are grassroots. The second thing we need to do is prosecute and remove the bureaucratic nomenclatura that shape the trajectory of the cases and prevent judges across at every level from hearing our evidence. We know who those people are. We can do something about them. We want to use the muzzle velocity and report these people and provide the evidentiary base to our U.S. attorneys who are incoming, to U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, to FBI Director Kash Patel. We need to provide, and we will, and we have the evidentiary base so that they can go out over and target, get rid of this nomenclatura and the people who are bureaucratically stifling our efforts, and then they can address our things that are broken. As Cleta said, we have legislative and law enforcement actions that can be taken. So lastly, from a media perspective, this alternate media, the people right here in our alternate media are the people that the people in the United States and the public are listening to. CNN and some of the leftist news media outlets, they're losing their hold. If they haven't already lost their hold, they're not trusted. So we need to keep bringing people here. You need to keep a media presence up. And lastly, I'm going to close because I know General Flynn's only a minute away, I hope, is be proud of what we've done. Be a hero, be a patriot, continue to be a patriot, stay the course, and continue to document the evidentiary base. Support Marley Hornick, Cleta Mitchell, support myself. I very rarely ask for donations, but with the election ending and people saying, hey, we're okay now, we could certainly use some help. We still have quite a few litigative efforts and media efforts that we're doing. I'd appreciate it if you'd go to www.patriot.online and donate there. Click the donate button, $5, $10, $20. We need to keep it going. We do have more cases to file. Every case is expensive. We have to document things and prepare disclosures for the law enforcement to press forward. So the battle isn't ended. Please donate, www.patriot.online. You can reach me at gstenstrom@xmail.net. Most of you know how to do that. And I can't thank Steve Stern enough, and Raj. And I guess we have hopefully a minute or two here to get General Flynn on. I'm looking forward to hearing what he's got to say. And thank you very much for this opportunity, Steve.
Sure. General Flynn is on. If I had to introduce him, it would take me about a half an hour. If they make a new, I guess, is there anything over a general? You would be that. So
yeah,
because there is nobody in this country that works harder than you. Even I don't work harder than you. So at 4:30 in the morning, you're on X. So just give me one answer. How many hours a night do you sleep?
I don't know, man. I'm one of those. I catch a nap when I can, right? And I always say, you'll sleep when you're dead, or there's other ways to say that too. But yeah, I was just trying. I literally been on the phone since about 5 o'clock this morning. Different reasons. I'm trying to read some of the text messages or the chat room too. If there's anything there that people you haven't been able to address. Let me just cover where I think we're at. So on elections and election integrity and the things that you've been so so on top of, Steve, and for everybody that's here. And I know that without these forums and all the different things that all of us did over the last 4 years, we would not have the breathing room that we have right now. But I want to emphasize that we only have a little bit of breathing room here. We have like one big, gasp of air as we came up, after the election was called. And my big message is that one man cannot do this alone. And now what we have to do is we have to really, really continue to hone this idea of local action and hone this idea of, what Steve has done for so long on this precinct strategy and getting people engaged at the local level. It's so super important. I can tell you that I was on a phone call yesterday already talking about the 2026 elections with a couple of people that are putting their names in the hat to run for different offices, that are, now they see an opportunity. They were at I would call a sub-local level, even precinct, and maybe a township political office. And now they're looking to run for a member of Congress, and they're looking to either go up against the left or go up against another rhino Republican. So all the things that we're involved in, that this forum and the forums that are like it, but there's really not one like it, Steve, and which I really applaud everything you've done. We need to keep doing this, and we need to keep the fire lit. We need to keep it hot, and we need to stay engaged. And so, from the perspective of what do I know President Trump has asked for and received? He's asked for a set of thoughts on elections, right? Election integrity, election fraud, and what do we need to do about elections? And so that was there was something prepared for him, and it was really good. It was vetted through some people that some people here know, and some that you might not know. It was looked at by what I call operational eyeballs, right? People who are actually operators, and not just technicians about a particular box or machine or whatever, but good people that are clear operators and know the whole scope of the entire election system. And was then given a presentation on that, had some good questions, and took it all in. So this is now I'm talking about President Trump. So he took it all in, didn't show any cards, which I appreciate. And so I am certain that we are going to see things, kind of come down from on high, that will begin to show a little bit of the direction that he wants to take, whether it's through executive order, whether it's through, even simple things like the U.S. Postal Service involvement in elections, right? It is a unconstitutional involvement. So the fact that the U.S. Postal Service, an arm of the executive branch of the government, being involved in elections is unconstitutional. So I'll just, there is a major case on the books right now that is running its course, and we actually, we want to get it all the way to the Supreme Court. So that's just that's a little bit of a line of operation, if you will. So there's the big strategic line that Trump is clearly staying on top of this, paying attention to it, formulating in his own mind what he may or may not want to do. The type of people that will probably be involved in any kind of a task force to look at this stuff. That's on the action to fix it. Of course, there's always the will anybody be held accountable question. And I do believe that there will be some of that that we'll see. And that's my speculation. That's not anything that I've heard Trump necessarily say, behind closed doors. So all that said, each of us has our role and responsibility, and I need people to really, really understand what I said at the beginning. If you can't control what's happening in Washington, D.C., don't worry about it. Take control of what you can control and get involved in the levels and the types of activities that we need to basically stitch this country, together, because we have an opportunity. We have a short period of time. I'm not one of these 100-day waiting for a 100-day plan. I strongly believe, and I have some indications to believe this, that Trump is going to, he's going to come out shooting. He's going to come out, guns blazing immediately. And that's a good thing, because we don't have time to wait. And we don't have time for the
The recording has stopped.
Okay. We don't have time for, I don't know if you heard that, Steve.
Yeah, I did.
But,
Raj,
So what we need to do is we need to continue and
This meeting is being recorded.
Steve, to the degree that you are able to, and others, that are champions in this world, we need to continue to move this thing forward, and we have to make it even bigger. We got to make it more national. We got to gather more resources, meaning gather more troops into this effort, into this fold. We've got to plant people around the country that are doing local, maybe even state precinctstrategy.com kind of stuff, right? And then they're feeders. Like, we have to have like an activist franchise movement in this domain, right? And this is our battlefield. If we do that, and we're able to take the success that we've had, because it was a massive, massive successful effort. It took Steve Stern, every ounce of energy that he had to continue to move this thing together. And I remember the early days, it was like, it was a lot of little angst and arguments and pettiness, actually, in some cases. And now now we see the fruits of our labor, right? Which is, we have the right guy in the White House for a period of time. And now what we've got to do is we've got to take that opportunity, and we've been given this, we've been given oxygen in our lungs, but it's only going to last for as long as we make it last, right? Which means we make it last by going back in and continuing to do what we're doing, not accepting any of the nonsense that we see out there, particularly in the establishment side and particularly on the GOP side. I mean, there's already, hell, in Florida alone, but around the country, there's going to be these debates. And the one that the conversation I was in yesterday had to do with New York, because I'd like to see us take New York City. I'd like to see us take New York State, and we can clearly, we can do more in places like California. And there's other places in the country where we can strengthen and what I call thicken the lines of MAGA, America First, good, strong conservatives, people who are just patriots. And that's what we need to do. And I will tell you that my, sort of my thing is going to remain exactly what I've been doing. For everybody that's, worried about me, I mean, I'm in direct contact with the sort of the national security team of people, and using every ounce of my energy on that front to advise and assist, and to make them successful, right? Because if they're successful, Trump's successful, and the country's successful, and it's not going to be easy. And that's why, for, like I keep saying, control the things that you can control. And for those other things that you can't, make sure that people understand it, but don't waste a lot of time where in areas where, you can complain about it and have conversations about it. But when it comes time to doing the work that you can do, and I'm talking to everybody, when it comes time to doing the work that you can do, do that work and do it to the best of your ability. And we need to continue to encourage more and more people to get involved. I am, in the sort of the political action side. One of the things that I'm going to personally do is get more involved in the Republican parties in various places in the country that are struggling to raise money, and I'm gonna try to go out and help people raise money. Nickels and dimes help. I mean, some of these smaller organizations, they did miracles with $25,000, $30,000, $50,000, right? I mean, this isn't about raising millions. This is about raising the kind of money that's needed at the grassroots level to get people out to do the kinds of things that we're talking about. But I can do that. And I was able to, I demonstrated that to myself. It wasn't something that I liked to do, but it was something that I felt necessary. And that once I realized that I could do it, I did it okay. And I was out there helping different organizations out. So I'm going to continue to do that to the degree that I have the time and the energy and those that wish for the help too. And I've already had a lot of people reach out. So I'm gonna personally continue to do that, and I'll keep you, Steve, in the loop on some of that, and pop into these conversations periodically, so people get at least a sense from me. And we do need to bring in others who are operating at different levels of our government into these conversations. And certainly, if not them personally, then some of those conversations that people like me or others might be having with them, so people understand here's what the folks inside are getting, are doing, are listening to, the challenges that they have, because everybody knows a year from now is going to be here very, very quickly, and it'll be a year from now that we're going to start talking about 2026. I mean, like I said, I spent almost 2 hours on the phone yesterday talking about 2026. So because we achieved our big goal, and now we got to start thinking about the next ridge line, right? What's at the next ridge line? The next ridge line is staying in power and beating back this thing we call the deep state, or this Marxist left, which is very real. And I'll stop, Steve, because I tell every audience I speak to that had Donald Trump not won, he'd be in prison right now for the rest of his life. Okay, as it is, this Nazi, fascist, whatever you want to call him, is going to still sentence him on Friday, and he's not going to be able to do much, but he's still gonna. He may delay him, but what he's gonna do is he's gonna wire brush Trump publicly, really badly, and we just have to, Trump's doing everything he can to prepare everybody for that, but is what it is. But he would be in prison for the rest of his life, and many of us, like myself, yours truly here, would be also a major target of the left. The leftists in our government, the Stasis, and had he lost. But good things happened, and people came out and voted for him, and there was miracles clearly that occurred. Bobby Kennedy's a miracle. The fact that Trump didn't get killed is a miracle. Elon Musk coming around is a miracle. I mean, there was a series of them that occurred that helped us get over that finish line, but we're not finished. So, Steve, let me throw it back to you, and thank you for being patient and allowing me to come on a little bit later.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions, but I'd just like to let you know that you are on 142 podcasters, Patriot TV, Lindell TV, The War Room, 89 different countries, radio. We have established a voice that's very important. Now, I got to tell you what the most important thing that you could do today is. All my people, 100 of the top election security people, need to have a person in the White House. Let's say it's you. We're not going to say it's you, but let's say it's you, that they can contact with, whether it's Susie Wiles or again, or Norton or somebody that communicates. Because I could tell you that during the election, even though Trump won, the down ballots, they lost in a lot of cases.
Right.
And that is because they did not listen to anybody on our group of 100, including Cleta Mitchell and Greg Stenstrom, who is here. He's called numerous times. So if you could get with me maybe in another day and we could discuss that. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the most important things, because every time we come on, every 2 to 3 weeks, we have 20 or 30 new podcasts, new areas to get this out. This is going to 89 countries. People are contacting us from Europe. We have 3 streamers in Canada, and you see what's happening in Canada. So this, and some of the experts from the United States government that you would recommend to come on here, because our people want to know what's going on. And the only way we're going to know what's going on are people like you that took the time, which we love you for, because, most people you call McGinley or somebody, oh, we're too busy. You're never too busy to do this. And that is so important. And that's why you're the most loved guy in this country. Everybody asks me, get him on every time. I know we can't do that, but you see how important is communication. If you call somebody in the Trump campaign and there's nobody to call, the communication can't get there. So we'll talk about that later, because everybody asks me all that time. So if people want to contact you, I know a lot of people are going to chat or asking me, how they contact you. Maybe you can give somebody an email, Melissa, or somebody that they can contact you. I know you. I see messages coming into me from X round the clock, so I know you're out there doing your job way more than anybody else in this country.
I'm going to be on X. Until they throw me off.
Well, they may give it to you. So, any last words?
Yeah, people can. I do I have an email address called questions@generalflynn.com. Questions@generalflynn.com. Now, people will probably inundate it, and Melissa will shoot me for it. But I'm actually I'm easy to get a hold of. It does get overwhelming, so I'll let people know that it gets overwhelming. So be patient, but know that me and my team, which is a very small team, because I like to stay light and flexible, we care about what it is that you have to say. And I generally have a pretty good, I call it a fingertip feel. I have a very good fingertip feel of the environment, because I spend a lot of time every single day researching and reading and looking and getting a feel for particularly the grassroots. And I also have people overseas who are friends of mine who keep me in the loop on things that are happening. And that's a positive thing. So, strategically, and I'll finish with this, Steve, strategically, this was a globalism versus sort of national sovereignty battle. And nations that wanted to maintain their sovereignty as democratic nations, and ours is a constitutional republic, and I got that, but democracy as a sovereignty, it was versus this new world order and globalists, and we beat them. But that's like it's like a championship tournament, right? That's only the first round. All right. So they haven't gone away. In fact, I was listening to them, talk to each other this week. So it was Monday. They got a little conference going on, and I pay very, very close attention, because I always say the enemy has a vote. And so I have to pay attention to I hate to call some of these people enemies, but they're certainly adversarial in nature. So we won the first round, big win, big victory. And we see the results of it, but the war is far from over.
I think it's just begun. Well, thank you very much, General Flynn. We'll get you on again. I appreciate it so much that you took the time. Happy New Year.
Yep. God bless. See everybody.
All right. Now we got Deb Monks on, who's going to give us some pertinent information. You there, Deb?
Deb, you can go ahead and unmute. We can see your screen, but I can't hear you yet. Go ahead and unmute, Deb. Okay, you're unmuted. Go ahead and speak. Let me make sure I can hear you. I cannot hear you. I see that you're unmuted, but I cannot hear you. stand by. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. Steve, can we go to?
Yeah, go to Harry if he's there.
Okay, great. Harry, go ahead and unmute, and then Deb will pick you up again after Harry. Harry, go ahead and unmute. Deb, are you there? Okay, Harry,
I should be unmuted.
Great.
I am.
Harry, I can hear you. Go ahead, Deb. Go ahead, Harry.
My name's Harry Howery. I am the chairman of United Sovereign Americans. I work with Marley Hornick, obviously. We believe in everything everybody's been saying here, so I don't think we're in any disagreement. What we do have is a different take on a lot of the special pieces. There's a lot of law out there. The law needs to be reformed. The law needs to be straightened out. There's no question about it whatsoever. But we also need to take this out of the foxholes and out of our defensive positions, and we need to fight back. And so our strategy basically is to advocate with the public so that they understand what's going on, to advocate with state and local and federal legislators, how the system can be reformed. But we also need to break through on this narrative that still permeates the mainstream media, which is that there's no evidence of election fraud. And as Greg said earlier, there's ample evidence. There's millions and millions of unreconciled anomalies in the system. The systems themselves are not provably, accurate or secure. And for people that don't know my background already, I am a cybersecurity expert. I worked for the military-industrial complex in different roles, intelligence and the Department of Defense for years. But the state of our election system is literally a joke. It's too complicated. The systems are being run by people that don't understand the consequences of their actions often. And those that do understand the consequences of their actions are attacking the integrity of the system. But we've allowed a narrative to be built, and this narrative has to be overwhelmed. And we are the only ones that can overwhelm it, not United Sovereign Americans. I mean, the American people. And the American people have to stand up and say it is important that everybody be allowed to vote. But the right to vote does not overwhelm the necessity to have an accurate and legitimate vote. And most people are unaware of this history, but in the 1800s, the primary thing that they attacked with regard to election fraud was the voter rolls, because this gave you the ability to enter a ballot as soon as metropolitan areas got large enough that people didn't know each other. It became possible to inject votes directly. Now we can do it by machine. We can do it by mail. The fact of the matter is we have to have a system that's provable from end to end. We've been advocating for 2 years that we need to have auditability, that the system at the end not only has to be accurate and compliant, it has to be provably accurate and compliant so that we can satisfy everybody's concern about whether this is, being run properly. We have variations, and we're in a defensive position, and our courts have angled that you can't do anything about it unless you can prove materiality. Oh, and by the way, you can't investigate it adversely unless you have materiality. So you have these catch-22 things that have been propagated in the interest of protecting the administrative process. They actually view the HAVA complaint system as being an independent court or administrative court. We have to end this nonsense. Citizens need to have standing. As Cleta said, we need to resolve these issues of private cause of action. But I do believe that there is an entire course of action that needs to be taken with regard to litigation. We need to advocate legislation. We need to get people educated. We need to change the narratives, and we need to take the battle back to them. General Flynn would certainly understand in all of domain dominance concept. We are not practicing all of domain dominance. We have to get into the mode of not letting them sit still with regard to their narratives. We have to not let them sit still with regard to obvious errors in judicial prudence. We have to do all of the things necessary to make sure we have honest, fair, open, and transparent, provable elections. So what we'd like to see over the next period of time, and we agree 100% with General Flynn's position, we only have something like 180 days to, maybe as many as 547 days before all hell breaks loose again. We can use the analogy, they held our head underwater for 4 years and somehow we survived, but we only have 2 years to make sure they don't push our head underwater again. All we have to do is look at the down ballot results of this past election, the anomalies, if you will, with regard to how it is exactly that President Trump won in certain jurisdictions and people closely aligned with him did not win. We believe the reason for that was that they knew that the American people would not stand for the presidential election being stolen again, but they knew that they could get away with their mischief down ballot. We have to stop the mischief everywhere. That goes from dog catcher and mayor all the way up to the presidency. So we have to stop this now. The other thing that's happening is that these anomalies are hard to measure. We have to gather real evidence that meets the conditions in court. A lot of data analysts are doing this across the country. Greg Stenstrom is doing a lot of work in this space. We have lots of guys associated with Cause of America that have been doing it. And the United Sovereign Americans has dozens of trained data analysts, programmers, data analytics specialists, database analysts that have been poring over these records. The amount of variance from the law is staggering. What we say at the end is simply, we cannot necessarily prove all these anomalies are election fraud, but they do need to be investigated and reconciled. But the real problem is the people certifying the election don't have a clue who won half of the time. Obviously, the presidential election, President Trump overwhelmed the mischief this time around. But the fact of the matter is that we need fair, open, honest, transparent, and provable elections. United Sovereign Americans is going to be focused on legislation and litigation that are oriented toward those aims. We're certainly starting a more formal cooperation with many of the other groups that are on this phone call today, because we can't do this if we don't coordinate. The fact of the matter is we've had a lot of internecine, battles over turf. We need to figure out how to get out of that mode and start cooperating, sharing data, sharing evidence, sharing information that will help all of us prosper. We have to get money all the way down to the county level to allow people to fight for fairness in the elections. We've got to get it to the state levels. We've got to also get a national presence with a coordinated type of messaging. Cleta's information is interesting. It's a good start, certainly with regard to talking about defending our elections, but we also have to make it clear that there's a lot of evidence, clear evidence in the actual fact patterns and collection of data from their own records that there's been tremendous amount of election fraud buried in the noise. The noise, people talk about this all the time. There's 23 million, registrations that are questionable. Okay, well, why would you need 23 million, fraudulent voter registrations? It's quite simple from an information operations standpoint. It's noise. It's like throwing chaff out the back of a jet or flares out the back of a jet when you're in an adverse environment. We need to stop the noise. The whole system was designed to be noise free, and they've spent the last 25 years figuring out how to inject noise and garbage. I don't think there's anybody on this call that doesn't want everybody that is eligible to vote to be able to easily vote. But the idea that we can whine about disenfranchisement, which isn't actually endorse the way that it's talked about at all when the 14th Amendment calls for people and the 17th Amendment calls for people to be eligible U.S. citizens, and that elections have to make a determination of who the electorate wants to elect. So what we have to do is rally around the principle of open, honest, fair, and transparent elections that at the end of the day can be proven. There's some technology that has to change. There's a lot of operational changes that need to be implemented. And we are certainly endorsing the idea that the law has to change as well. Steve, I know that you wanted me to focus on operational security issues, but cybersecurity issues, but cybersecurity doesn't exist without operational security. And what we find is that we have systems that are too complicated. And we don't have the personnel in the field that know what they're doing with regard to deep cyber systems protection. So a lot of what happens is a lack of awareness and training on the people's part. In the government, we have systems that are designed that can't be tampered with on purpose. The systems that are being put in place have marginal, if any, real cyber protections around them. They rely on locks and goodwill and nobody sharing common passwords. This is all ridiculous. We're talking about the future of America. How much is it worth to our adversary to steal our country? It doesn't take much to realize that this is a principal issue here that we underestimate because we look at everything as local. It's not just, Chesterfield, Missouri, or Loudoun County, Virginia. It's the entire country as an aggregate because they're fighting us everywhere we look. We've lost control of the big picture. We have to have an all of domain strategy, just particularly fix the operational concerns and to get systems out of the mix that can't be proven to be accurate and secure. Steve, that's all I really had to say. You can reach Marley and I at uniteforfreedom.com, and I hope you do. We need your support.
Thank you very much. Let's see if we get Deb back on.
Great, Deb. Go ahead, Deb.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you great. Fantastic.
Oh, success. Wonderful. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Deb Munks, and I'm with Defend Florida. And I was asked by Steve to have a short discussion today on the ballot printer landscape. And I'm going to do that in 3 parts. First, I'm going to talk about what steps bad actors would take to insert illegal vote by ballots into our election process. Then how a ballot printer could be utilized to do that, and recommendations for controls to make sure that our contracted ballot printers and non-contracted ballot printers don't participate in illegal ballot insertion or enable that process. So very quickly, there are several steps that have to be gone through in order to insert a legal ballot. The first is to get a blank ballot, which one could do by getting the ballot design and printing them yourself, or you could acquire ballots from a legitimate vendor who sells extra. Once you get those blank ballots, you must complete them either with pre-printed votes or fill them out manually. Step 4 is you need to get a ballot envelope, fill it out with a signature, and return it. And then, last but not least, it has to be done in a way that the election office will accept it. And there's 2 different scenarios on the election office selecting. In states where ballots are just set, vote by mail ballots are just sent to everyone, if there's a matching signature, it's accepted. In states that require a vote by mail ballot to be requested, they may or may not check to see if a ballot coming in was actually requested. In the state of Florida, where I'm from, we have a law that states you must request a ballot and you must provide a level of identification to be sent a ballot. But nowhere in our laws does it say they have to check when they receive a ballot that has been requested. So there's an example of a gap. How can ballot printers enable or not enable this process? Well, first of all, you see at the bottom of the screen that depending on the ballot printer themselves, some have the ability to enable all of these steps. Others that are in the solid black every ballot printer pretty much has that capability, which is to print ballots and pre-printed ballots. There's another step in the process that ballot printers also often play, and that is to do outbound mailing of the blank ballots on behalf of the election offices. And many do offer that service, not all. So if a ballot printer is a rogue printer, or they have a rogue employee, they can enable this process in several ways. First, they could overprint and supply ballots to a bad actor, or they could sell or expose the ballot design to a bad actor. If they are contracted to do outbound mailing, they can misdirect the outbound ballots. They can supply pre-printed voted ballots to a bad actor. They can supply return envelopes to a bad actor, and they can enable high acceptance rates. And I'll explain that in a few minutes here. With that in mind, who are the ballot printers in our election process in the US? Well, there are many. And unfortunately for me, when I accepted this project, I didn't know that there was no nice little report I could go to and find out who all the players were and how big they were. So this is all gathered from the websites of the vendors themselves. And there's many. The ones in larger font here are some of the larger ones I found: Runback, NBC, Ford Enterprise, Spectrum Printers. There are some who claim that they buy their ballots from the actual tabulator vendor. And you have to consider election offices themselves part of the ballot printer landscape, because most election offices have the ability to print ballots, at least on a ballot demand basis. What we find as we look through the landscape is, first of all, most of them are vertically integrated to some degree. They do ballot design and production, envelope printing, outbound mailing service. They do voter registration card printing, list maintenance mailings. Some of them offer ballot tracking and reporting tools. Some even offer data management and processing, including voter registration. And others, some, but actually one, sell systems that are used when ballots are received back in the vote counting center to help determine if the ballot will be accepted. So technology that, like mail sorters, signature matching, and duplication software that could enable higher acceptance rates. And what we find is, at least in Florida and other states that I'm familiar with, their statutes, there are limited laws and rules on ballot printers. In the state of Florida, we have some very good voting system procurement laws. However, they don't apply to ballot printers. And one thing that's, I think, is definitely missing is statutes that require that election offices do not use ballot printers for all the services, so that they basically are running the vote by mail process. Okay. There's not enough time to go through all of them. And so I just listed some of the big ones on this chart, and you'll see that includes Runback, NPC, Ford Orange Press, and Fiddler. Many of these are private companies that have been in place for many years. They tend to originate in one state and then grow from there. The one that published the most states is Runback. But you see here, every company on this list has high capacity and likely sells to many states. They all, on this chart, do the return certificate envelopes. They all offer the mailing services. Several of them offer ballot tracking services or technology, and some of them offer inbound processing services or technology. In terms of political leanings, it's somewhat difficult to discern, and I think some cases they make it difficult to discern by not registering to vote or doing political donations. But in terms of Runback, it was prior to 2023 a private corporation, and I would characterize it with debatable democratic ties, in that the owner and leader did not do donations or ostensibly partisan things, had relatives who did, and just as you may have a sister or a brother who is in one political party and you're another. So it's debatable. However, Runback was acquired in August of 2023 by an investment company with Republican ties.
Runbeck is a special place on this list because they are a member of the EAIASC. That's a Cicerone group in terms of information sharing between vendors. NPC is a private corporation with a very well concealed political ties and mixed donor tracking. Florida Orange Press is also private with a owner registered as a Democrat, but no specific large donation history. Fiddler is interesting. Fiddler was a longtime Florida corporation, private corporation that was purchased by Cathedral in 2017 with Democratic ties. But after I did all this work, I just came to the conclusion it really doesn't matter what their political leanings is, in the sense that the management could have a different leaning. You could have a road actor, and you need these companies to be legitimate and have good practices so that accidents don't happen and information or capacity is leaked to bad actors. What can we do to prevent the whole ballot insertion issue? Well, first of all, when you give as an election office, when you as an election office contract with a printer, you have to give them your ballot design. If you have a ballot printer that is saying, email me your ballot design, don't do it and look for another printer, because that's a very insecure transfer process. And if they don't even have that secure, how well are they going to keep the ballot design files secure once they have them? Also, another technique that can be done is to establish an authorized ballot serial number range, which is later checked on returns. We can also make sure that we don't outsource the mailing of our ballots, and we have mechanisms in place to detect pre-printed voted ballots, as well as we put serial numbers on envelopes, and we check that with their ballot serial numbers on the envelopes when they are returned before they're accepted. Use diverse vendors for different parts of this process, and the ability to detect machine-generated signatures. And last but not least, if you implement the serial number on the envelope and ballots, then you do the check before you accept a return ballot to see it was in the legitimate range. Now, these are all things that an election official can do on a voluntary basis. However, my belief is that we need to enact ballot controls through legislation as well, make the controls I mentioned in the slide mandatory, require daily vote ballot reconciliation and full ballot accounting, because that point of one of the previous slides was offices themselves can generate ballots, and we need to have the full body of ballots accounted for, and make ballot printer services subject to procurement laws. So no election official can have interest in a ballot printing company, required to have transparency, audits, controls of the companies that supply ballots, require written requests for vote by mail ballots, and audit the request sent received counts. Do procedural audits to ensure the election laws around not only ballot procurement, but other election laws are followed. If you're interested in more information on best practices or on legislation that we've drafted in these areas, you can email me at sdmonks@proton.me.
Can you put that in the chat?
Yes, I will put that in the chat.
All right, thank you very much. And let's get up to see if Linda is there.
I'm here, Steve.
You got it.
And
Yeah.
Deb, if you could stop sharing your screen, Deb. Go ahead,
Yep.
Linda.
Well, thank you, Steve and Raj, for having me on. I mean, you always have such wonderful guests, and I always learn so much information. And Deb, that was great. I had absolutely no idea with the information that you were giving us on all the ballots and and all of the stuff that you went over. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm Linda Sinkowitz. I'm the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. And our mantra is one vote for one legal voter. That's all we want. And we have been working at that now going on 6 years. We had been spending time doing the deep dives into actually proving the people who actually violated election laws. We had done training, we had our silent army across the country, etc. But now we are coming out with something that is going to help everyone. Our proprietary information on doing the deep dive, we are going to have available, I believe on January 13th is when we will finally have it done. What I mean by this is when you start researching people to see if they were the double voters or if they had double registered, etc. There's certain information that you would need to have to prove it's actually that person. So we have been working, and I have a wonderful gentleman named Derek who works with our organization, and he has gone state by state to actually have a system where you just click on the link and it'll bring you right to the information on different websites, and it's all free information. It's public information, and it's also free information. Before I left the office today, he told me he was at 46 states. He believes we'll be done by this weekend, and I should have it available on January 13th. The other thing that's happening on January 13th is we have all the voter rolls and all the information and the same data stuff that we did last year, giving out the double registered double voters, will be available on our website, fightvoterfraud.org, and you go to request data. It will be available on Monday the 13th as well. You're not limited to any amount that you want. Before we limited like 500 names. If you want a county or a state, we will give you that information. You just have to be patient because we're usually inundated with a lot of requests. You'll also find, hopefully, we have been reworking our website. So it's going to have a brand new look as of next week. So after this past year, and we helped out a number of organizations by getting them the data that they requested. We want to continue that. We're still looking to get funding so we could provide the deceased voters to everybody. We're not quite ready to give that out for free yet. We have to get some funding to back up what we need. But our goal this year is to work with as many people and as many organizations and to make it as easy as possible to get the data that you need to submit to your local election officials, your sheriffs, etc. Like, again, that's why I said our goal for 2025 is to help everyone. So after you request the data, it's a very simple form. And then we get it to you. We give you instructions on, the tabs and how to use it. We will also be setting up a webinar, and we will help you and walk through with everybody exactly what you have in front of you. And then we will be sending you that information I just told you about on all 50 states on how to find the information. We believe our data is incredibly accurate because of all the data sources that we are cross-referencing with everything. And it's not going to be 100% of everything in your county or your state, because we are going for the lowest hanging fruit, the easiest stuff to cross-match from names, date of births, phone numbers, and I think a half a dozen other points. So there will be a lot more. We figure we're capturing at least on the easy end about 20%. And like I said, we want to be there to help everyone with their data. And I forgot who talked earlier about the fact that everybody thought that after the election that we can all sit back and, we don't have anything to do. And believe it or not, I still have people saying that, oh, the election's over, you don't have much to do. I tell people this is just the start of what we have to do. We have to do the full court press. We have to be supporting people like Greg Stenstrom and everything that he is working on, and Marley Hornick, and just paying attention to everything that everyone is doing. Everybody has their little niche. And like I said, I am just so pleased that Steve and Raj have this forum for us to get the information out there. So again, January 13th is the date to request your data. And like I said, anybody who needs to get in touch with me, it's Linda, Linda, at fightvoterfraud.org. And our website is, I had put it in the chat, is fightvoterfraud.org. So thank you very much, everybody.
You're quite welcome. Next, we're going to bring on Dr. Mary Crowley. Now, I got to tell you a little story here because she's in California and she's 20 miles away from the fire. They just turned off her electricity, but she's coming in on her phone. She has a great podcast. She has a great audience. I want to, we all feel bad about the fires. A lot of people don't even know there's fires in California. So Mary will tell you about that. Mary, you on?
Yeah, hey, Steve, can you hear me? I'm actually still on my laptop. I have my phone, though, ready to go in case they turn the power off. It was off. It went back on. It's on now, so I'm on my MacBook Pro. So can you hear me?
And you're looking good.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, the fires, I'm in Thousand Oaks, the fires, Palisades. I mean, I've been there many, many times and done a lot of things out there. I know that Rick Caruso, I mean, he's a developer and a patriot, but he said that they don't have enough water. They don't have water in the fire hydrants. And they haven't cleared the brush for like 30, 40 years in the hills. So it's unbelievable. There's 13, I forget how many acres on fire. It's going down into Santa Monica. I'm 20 miles away. I'm not in harm's way, but a lot of these liberals here, I really believe that California is a red state. I believe we recalled Gavin Newsom. But we're going to take these guys down. And I'm in the media mountain, on the mountain of arts and entertainment and the mountain of media. So, the deep state, the globalists have used the narrative for a long time to push their fear porn and everything. And so I know this is election integrity, but I'm going to talk about how the fires of, destruction are here, but I believe the fires of reawakening are at the door. And as California has been used in some of the greatest waves of God, I'm also in the ministry, and I believe that California is going to be turned back, and that I basically, have a film about sex trafficking called Freedom Cry, which we've been showing it all over the country at my events I've been producing, called Open the Heavens, Let God Arise. We did 5 of them, first one in Mount Rushmore in June 2nd and 3rd of 2023. Then we went to Chicago, Florida, San Diego. Lastly, we were up in Idaho. But we are putting people together. We can't just do everything on Zoom, but I, really applaud all the podcasters that are on here. We are the warriors that are putting out the alternative media that is making a change and a difference. I'm going to be at the gala next week in the inauguration, but let me just say that I believe it's time that we are going to take back the mountain of arts and entertainment in Hollywood. And I really feel that I was inspired by God that told me the greatest show on earth is here. And that it's time that we will rise up and cheer. And that what the devil has tried to do with his fear, that's going to come down. We are going to wear the crown, and we are going to see the greatest show that the world has ever seen. And God is going to give us back our dream. And so it's the Renaissance came after the Reformation. I know a lot about history and revival in particular. And after Martin Luther tacked the 95 Theses on the Chapel of the Door in Wittenberg, it was after that the Renaissance came. And everyone listening, podcasters, people around the world, I want to encourage you that I believe that we are going to bring content that is going to change the culture. So I just say I'm a cheerleader. I know how to cheer people on. And, I'm working on a film, called The Prodigal. It's about the story of the Jesus movement in Southern California and how God used a hippie. There was already the Jesus Revolution about Greg Laurie and Chuck Smith, but mine is about Lonnie Frisbee, who was the hippie preacher from the Jesus movement that erupted into a movement. I mean, looking back in history at the 60s, everyone, You had the free speech movement out of Berkeley. You had the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King. You had the women's rights movements with Gloria Steinem, the Black Panther movement. You had all these movements. And at the end of the 60s, Steve and everyone, you had the Jesus movement when they said God was dead. All of a sudden, God breathed upon these dry bones, and they'll say, can anything good come out of California? I was just on a large podcast earlier, and the host said to me, well, we're praying maybe California might fall off into the sea. They're not praying that. But I said, no, it's not going to fall off into the sea. We're going to see a great wave here. And like General Flynn was talking about, we are going to take California back, and it's going to be another gold rush. Only this time, we're going to see these movies, the greatest movies have yet to be seen. It's just as I close, Steve, it was like looking back in history because I studied film. There was an unknown, basic, it's an actor named Sylvester Stallone who wrote a script after he saw Muhammad Ali and a guy, I forget even the name because I wasn't going to talk about this. He wasn't expected to last more than 2 rounds and he went the distance. We have to go the distance. The fight is just beginning now. And so he got so inspired, he wrote the Rocky script in one night. He was on an audition in LA, Chartoff and Winkler, a famous producing, couple. They asked him, hey, Sylvester, anything going on? He goes, I wrote a script. They said, send it over. Sent it over. They thought, wow, this is great. We want to have Burt Reynolds, one of the well-known actors of the day. But Sylvester said, no, I got to play Rocky. And they kind of like kept on giving him more money, giving him no money, more money. And he was broke as a joke. And all of a sudden, finally, there was a boxing gym out of Philadelphia, Steve, that they think it was mob money that they had to, launder. The guy called him and said, we'll give you 1.1 million to do the film here. So they called him up. They said, okay, we'll give you $35,000 to play Rocky. Bill Conte, who did the composing music, was gladiator music, like dun, 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 dun. Gladiator movie. We're in a fight right now. And you know what? We might be knocked down, but we're not knocked out. And so what happened is they did that movie at the end, when they were screening it at the Directors Guild, all of a sudden, he was in the back row with his mother, Jackie, who I've met several times. And the lights went up. It was over. They all filed out and everyone was quiet. And he hung his head in shame. And she said, maybe next time, honey. And he said, this was my time. Some of you might be thinking it's all over, but God is saying, this is your time. And all of a sudden he waited till they all left. He comes out in the Directors Guild. There's a foyer below and a spiral staircase. As he came out, all of a sudden they all waited for him and they cheered as he came out because they knew that what he had written was a masterpiece. The greatest films, and you know what? It was up for 10 Academy Awards and it won Best Picture. And it was the film that inspired after the Vietnam War and all these other things. The movies were all dark and everything, but it was the film that inspired people. I want to inspire you that let's take action. As they say in Hollywood, it's lights, camera, action. It's a movement. It's not a sentiment. We have to move. And I believe the greatest show on earth is here, Steve. And so if people want to, I launched Destiny Studios last year. I've only done one film, so I'm not trying to say I'm a big filmmaker, but let me tell you, I've been working on this last movie for 17 years, 4 writers. But let me tell you, it's our time. And what the hippie was in the Jesus movement, I believe that God's going to touch the LGBT community and they're going to rise up to love God, be true. And we're going to see, instead of this narrative that they're trying to push our kids to be transgender, that we're going to see a great move among young people to rise up again and to see a great move of God's Spirit from coast to coast. So my website, I'll put it in the chat, marycrowley.com, right in the middle of America, MERICROULEY.com. And we just launched destinyfilmstudios.com, but we're getting ready to go. It's time for the show. So
thank you very much, Mary. I got to tell you that when I sent out the Zoom that we did together, that everybody said they love you. You're doing a sensational job, and we appreciate you streaming us. Be safe. Let us know what happens with the fire, because I know a lot of people are losing their homes. And thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks everybody watching. The best is yet to come.
And Steve, right before Jenny met, let me just make a quick announcement here. So when I thank you very much, Dr. Crowley, that was so inspiring and exciting, and I saw the people just smiling here on the Zoom. So what I wanted to do here is just follow up with the announcement I made earlier. Some of you may have missed it. And so two things here. One, you can see on the screen right now, this is the rally taking place in Orlando, Florida. That is coming this Saturday. This rally, again, is to voice disappointment and protest with the Republican Party of Florida suspending many America First members from the Republican Executive Committee. So the location, if you're in the Sarasota, Tri-County area of Sarasota County, you can hop on this bus here. If you're not, you can just meet us at the Orlando location. You can see the email right there, contact@thehollowalliance.com, contact@thehollowalliance.com. I will tell you that this organization actually rented a facility at the Rosen Plaza, and the Republican Party of Florida then contacted the hotel vendor and killed the reservation. So it's quite disturbing what this organization is doing. So if you are interested in pushing that back, please attend this rally. More information here, please take a picture of that on your screen. If you'd like additional information, starting at 9 a.m., going up to 1 p.m., location to be disclosed. You can get that information by contacting that email address that I am showing you right there at the bottom here. And also, again, the second annual Republican Invitational, Steve talked about that earlier, taking place on March 3rd, 2025. The phone number to contact, please take a picture of this, or this QR code is Steve Stern. Please contact the number. This event will sell out. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous facility, a good cause, and a phenomenal opportunity to meet, network with people like you're seeing on the Zoom call, but in person. So with that, thank you for your patience,
Raj,
Jenny
one
Beth.
second, I just want to let everybody know that Raj is going to be streaming this. He'll be there taking pictures of the people on the golf course. Last year we had 54 golfers. This year we're trying to get 100 golfers. The prize will be around $25,000 for a hole-in-one. Many people are sending in donations. Some of the things that we got are rings with Trump on it. And if anybody has anything they want to donate, let me know. You go to sstern1054gmail.com. Give me a call, 954-562-5225. Glad to give you information. People fly in from all over the country. Last year, we had about 30 people fly in as far as California and North Dakota. So hopefully this will be a great event. And thanks everybody's support. Also, I'd like to let everybody know that we beat the record. Thanks everybody on this call. We had the biggest Christmas for our flag shirt, www.theflagshirt.com. I'm going to do a new video. I did one with Patriot TV, and they'll be advertising it. We got all new things. I'm wearing one of our new shirts. And let's bring on Jenny Martin, our Tea Party person who started the Tea Party, and we still need the Tea Party here.
Well, thank you so much, Steve, and thank you, Raj. So what Tea Party Patriots Action is going to be doing related to election integrity over the next 2 years, we'll continue to do the things that we have done the last 4 years, which includes recruiting people for poll watching and poll working, recruiting people who are interested in doing more than just poll watching or poll working, cleaning the rolls, working on the machines, whatever else the other different task forces are, making sure that they know where the volunteer opportunities are within your organization and within the election integrity network that Cleta Mitchell and Lynn Taylor head up. So we'll continue doing that work. And then on top of that, we are going to be doing a lot of work with legislative calls to action on Capitol Hill. So right now, the SAVE Act was reintroduced by Mike Lee and Chip Roy this past week, well, last week and this week. And we are watching to figure out when the votes on that will happen, what we can do to make sure that we get the SAVE Act passed. And just as a reminder, the SAVE Act is the bill that is going to require proof of citizenship in order to register to vote. So that is very important with the national voter registration, updating the National Voter Registration Act to require proof of citizenship when registering to vote. Then the other thing that we're doing is other kinds of calls to action that will advance President Trump's agenda, and also especially leaning into election integrity and election security legislation. So some of it does, some of it does not. The call to action that we have out right now this week is focused on the Lake and Riley Act, which passed the House yesterday, will be voted on in the United States Senate on Friday, and that's very important. That is the Friday would be her 23rd birthday. We have to have senators who are willing to open the bill up for debate and then allow final passage, the vote for the final passage of the bill. So you have to have a cloture vote. And that means we're going to need Democrat senators voting for cloture. And then hopefully they also will go ahead and vote for the final passage of the bill. We're watching that very closely. Border security is very important to us. And then helping get justice for Lake and Riley is extremely important to us, since she was from Georgia and from the county that I'm standing in right now, Cherokee County, Georgia. And then we're also working to help President Trump's nominees on the Senate side. And we'll be educating people more on what reconciliation is, why that's important, and how we can help with that in the coming days and weeks ahead. There's a lot of debate on whether it's going to be one big, beautiful bill or if it needs to be more than one bill in order to get the job done. We are a little bit ambivalent at the moment on whether it's one or two bills. We think the most important thing is that we're able to get the border secure as quickly as possible, to address the inflationary issues that are going on, and then also to work on the tax cuts. So I have a feeling that's going to wind up needing two bills to get that done, and we'll be watching that very closely. If you want to be involved with us and are not already, you can go to teapartypatriots.org to sign up, or you're welcome to email me directly at jenny.beth@teapartypatriots.org. Again, that's Jenny, JENNY, .Beth, BETH, @teapartypatriots.org.
Well, thank you very much. You have a happy new year. We appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy. We had to shuffle you around, but thanks again. Next up will be Michele Swinick, SaveMyFreedom.us. See if she's on there now. She was coming on at 4:15, maybe a little early. Is she up?
I'm not seeing her at the moment. I'm not seeing Michele Swinick at the moment.
Let me see if we get her, because she's our last speaker.
Okay. So while we're waiting, for those of you who may have missed it, Anthony Fauci is going to be speaking here in Sarasota. And you guys are probably falling off your sheet. Like, Rod, you're inviting us to an Anthony Fauci meeting. No, hang on. Don't jump the gun. Anthony Fauci will be speaking here in Sarasota County at the Van Wezel Performing Arts. People are buying the ticket left, right, and center at $239 a ticket. The reason I'm bringing that up here is there's a group here that is looking to basically create a rally here, a rally to protest the grievous, harmful things that Anthony Fauci did. As you know, it is his ideas that really guided the administration on what they did with medical. It is his policy that guided what big tech did in their suppression of what they call misinformation. You have now seen, I'm sure most of you have seen, even the CEO of Facebook, Zuckerberg, has come and admitted that he was pressured by the by the Biden administration to do many of the things that he did, and he's now done almost 180 degrees about face after his meeting with President Trump with regard to turning loose those constraints on Facebook. So going back to Anthony Fauci, this meeting is taking place, and now once I heard about that meeting, I did some Googling, and it sounds, what I'm finding, that Mr. Fauci has been speaking in all kinds of places, like Harvard, Yale, other institutions. So this man has showing no remorse or regret, it seems, for the actions that he took. So if you are interested in helping us make a loud noise of protest against what Anthony Fauci did and what it looks like they're trying to do again with this upcoming monkey flu, bird flu, whatever the heck they're coming up with, Please keep your eyes peeled for that. That will take place on April 14th. April 14th, 2025. Please save the date. And again, we want to make that a big statement. By the way, for those of you that are fans of Robert RFK, it is important that you make your voices heard to support the policies that he wishes to perform, because make no mistake, the swamp is deep in his department. He's going to be faced with all kinds of managers, middle managers, senior managers that are going to slow walk his policies, outright sabotage his policies. Like General Flynn said earlier, one man can only do so much. So it's important that you folks who are on call that also have an interest in health freedom, make your voices known as louder than ever. So that is my announcement there. Let me check.
Yeah, I
to see
think
if
Michelle is on, or should be on any second, and let everybody know the next meeting is going to be on a Thursday, the 23rd. We'll have some special people on there. I'm going to speak to General Flynn to see if he can get us somebody from the Trump campaign to speak, so everybody will know what's going on, because as we told General Flynn, a lot of people have asked me to get together with President Trump and ask him to get a czar so that we can discuss with them what we know as grassroots people, rather than them just doing what they want. So is Michelle on? She should be on.
Not yet.
All right, we'll wait 1 minute, and if not, we will close it down.
Okay. So again, this effort here, this call, and all the podcasters that are part of this takes a tremendous amount of work to do that. There are no employees here per se that are doing this. No one, Steve and I are not getting paid for any of this work here. But if you were to buy a shirt or any garment from the flag shirt, then that helps fund a lot of what is taking place on this call. So please make sure you go to the flag shirt website and go through their merchandise and purchase your garment. It makes an excellent gift. You got Valentine's coming up here. You got a number of holidays coming up here. You got the inauguration coming up here. So please make sure that you take advantage of that. I need another idea for a public service announcement, Steve. I'm running out of ideas here.
Well, we can take some questions. There's some hands up there, so I see.
Okay, we got a George Finn has got his hand up. George, let me ask you to unmute. Okay, George, if you can, we want to make sure we go to a question. So go ahead, George. You're up. Go ahead, please, George Finn. Yeah, I'm not hearing you. Let me just see if there's someone else. I do see that you're unmuted, but I'm not hearing you, George. Let me check for Michelle. Steve, regarding this event that's happening on March 3rd, are there people coming in from outside the immediate area? We want to just, we want to make it more appealing for people.
They'll be coming in from all over. Anybody who wants to golf can fly in from any place. And we had last year, we had them in from New Jersey, New York, North Dakota, California, a lot from Palm Beach, Broward, Miami, all over the area. We're trying to get Trump's granddaughter to play. That will be a big thing. We got all different type things happening. Last year was our first one. We learned from that. We had baseball players there last year. We're going to have Sam Sorbo and her husband, who's an actor. He'll be there. There's Michelle. Come on down.
Can you hear me? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so can you guys hear me, or am I frozen?
I can hear you. We can see you. You look beautiful.
Okay, so I'm frozen on my end. So it's as usual, when I go into sometimes shows or Zooms like this, my system freezes up. So I lost 2 TVs, and this is normal, right? Everything's fine until I try to get information out to people. So bear with me here. I've got to move some stuff around because I've got slides to show you. So how much time do I got, Steve? How's everybody doing today?
We're doing good. You got about 15 minutes. So 4:30, we have to be off here by 4:30, which is 15, 20. Let's see, it's now 4:13. You got till 4:30.
Okay. All right, so everything's frozen on my end. Give me a second here. Let's see if it resets. Again, this only happens when I'm talking about election stuff. I'm used to it. It's 2 years of this. I mean, complete censorship, computer shut down, freezing. I mean, it's just mind blowing. It's just normal. It's nothing that we can change at this point. So I'm triaging right now.
While Michelle is sorting that out, you want to give George 90 seconds to ask his question?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, George. Go ahead, George.
Unmute him. He's muted.
Okay, go ahead, George.
Can you hear me now?
We
Yes.
can hear you now. Yes, loud and clear. Go ahead, George.
Okay, yeah. My question is to everybody, actually. If you want to have the maximum impact with the least amount of effort, I put my email in the chat. I will send you a letter that I wrote to President Trump. If you like it, all you got to do is print it, mail it to Mar-a-Lago. The address is on the letter. And it's a great idea about eliminating the cost of campaign advertising and taking away the influence of corrupt special interest money. When people go to Congress, they won't be strong armed by the leadership because they'll have followers, immediate registered voters, lots and lots of them to say, "Hey, here's my power." Anyway, lots to talk about. I don't want to hold you up, but I'll put my email in the chat if you want to know more on how to help. Just all you got to do is print out the letter I send you and send it to Trump. Thanks, everybody.
You got it. Anybody else have their hand up?
Nope, don't see anyone else hand up
All right,
here.
Michelle, if you can't unfreeze, we can get you on the next one if you want.
All right, so am I still frozen?
Stand by. Let me bring you back on.
Am I frozen?
I can see you. I can see you moving, and I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right, so the problem is my slides are going to be in front of my screen, so I am going to do my best here. Do my best, unless you guys.
While Michelle is doing that, for those of you that are watching this on the restream through the podcasters, if you'd like to get information about these and other events, please text the word election to 91776. Text the word election to 91776. That is for those of you that are watching this on the podcasters that are restreaming this event.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and you guys are going to get me on to the next one, but I need to show you what's going on and what happened with 2024. All right, so I am literally working with one screen instead of three. So I'm trying to minimize things. So just bear with me here. All right, so as you guys know, the people that have been paying attention, you don't need to see me. You just need to see the information. So we're going to share, I believe it's this screen. All right, so you can see that, right? It says Trump must investigate Arizona. Is that what you guys, can you see that?
Yes,
Okay.
I see that.
Okay.
I see that.
So Trump must investigate the criminal elections in Arizona. All right, so first of all, I want everyone to understand, we do not have elections in this country. We have manufactured and manipulated crime scenes. And if anybody tells you differently, then they've never investigated or worked at an election, especially in Maricopa County. It is the most corrupt county in the country, but it also is, right? You can see my screen, right? Raj, you can see the Trump. Okay, I just want to make sure, because what I'm seeing is not what you guys are seeing. And it doesn't matter what I see as long as you see it. Our elections are manufactured and manipulated crime scenes, okay? And the results don't match the votes. We've proven that in Arizona for the past 13 months with the evidence from Maricopa County's own official election records, returns, and documents, okay? So I'm going to go through real quick what happened in 2024, which is what we told everybody was going to happen, and we even did the lawsuit that they didn't. That's a whole nother story. But Arizona ain't over yet. And I do need to say that we tried, okay? We tried. Because what people need to understand, when you're contesting election races, if you're contesting governors and secretaries of states and attorney generals, those are done through the judicial system, through the courts, okay? But when you are contesting races for your House and your Senate, whether it's state or federal, you go to the bodies. You go to the Senate in Congress, and you go to the state, and they take care of their own investigations. They take care of deciding whether or not those people are going to be seated. And we tried that. Okay, we tried that with the U.S. Senate. We gave them the evidence, and we had a huge successful campaign on Twitter for anybody that participated. I appreciate you. Just from what I can see on my tweets, Renata's tweets, We had 8 million views of our video, okay, that explained what happened in 2024 with 130,000 missing ballots. And you're going to see that information here in a second. Why is this important? Because this is how the election system operation works. And we've shown that to you for 13 months, showing you all the evidence. We've done all the investigations and all the work. And there's only one solution to this, because we've tried with the senators. We tried to get them, because all it took was one US senator to call for a hearing to begin an investigation into Arizona. And it would have shown that Ruben Gallego did not win. And Carrie Lake did, because you needed to go ahead and eliminate the entire election from Maricopa County because it was illegal, illegitimate. And you're going to see even more proof of that here in a second. But why is this important? Because not only this is the template for the whole country, the election system operation, but everything goes through Maricopa County. Okay. And if we've also done all of the homework already, the investigation is done. It just requires someone to review it and prosecution at this point. And it's not going to happen in the courts. It's not going to happen in the federal, the state courts. It's not going to happen in the Senate. It's not going to happen in the House. There's only one man. There's only one man. And this is the guy who you need to all hold accountable in 2025, because he said that anybody that cheats on the election is going to go to jail. And we have all the proof in Maricopa County for 2020, 2022, and 2024. It's all public. We've shown it to you guys. We do have a couple things that we haven't shared yet, which is criminal prosecution type evidence that shows intent. And we're holding that back because it's all public, but we're just not broadcasting it. So that's your to-do list for 2025. The only thing that matters at this point, if you want to go ahead and have an election system that actually is legitimate and illegal, is you hold that man, President Donald J. Trump, accountable, because he's the only one that's going to do anything. His DOJ department, all they need to do is look at the information we've exposed, which is all public. I'm here to help in any capacity. Leo's here to help in any capacity. And they could begin prosecutions. I'm happy to take the stand. I've been trying to get on the stand for 13 months, okay? And that's it. It dismantles, exposes the entire system. And that's the only way it's going to happen, no matter what any of us done, because we tried it all. We've tried everything. That's what needs to happen. So 2023, 2024, those were the years of expose, expose, expose. Now it's hold them accountable. The only man that's going to be able to do it is Donald J. Trump. So send your letters to Mar-a-Lago, like Steve has told you many a times. Start tagging and posting and calling and texting and email, because nobody else is going to do it, because we've tried. We've tried. We're talking millions of people, hundreds of thousands of people tagged and contacted and emailed and called and posted and retweeted their senators in a month that we've been doing this campaign. People even said to me, Michele, I've never had no phone calls back in the whole time that I've ever contacted anybody. When I contact my senator, this is the first time ever where I got no phone calls back from Senator Cruz's office. Okay, these are all MAGA people. All right, they don't want to touch any of this. You want a legitimate country? Trump's your man. Okay, so hold them accountable. All right, here's real quick 2024 Canvas report. I did this because I want people to see Maricopa County. Now, real quick, I want to go back because I forgot to tell you this, but everybody that watches the show should know. All the information that we've done for all of these for 13 months, okay, 2 years really hard, 2 years, 13 months hardcore. SaveMyFreedom.us, takeactionitems.com. It's all there. On X, everything home T. Everything is there. All this is public documentation. Oh, Rubio. All this is public documentation, public information. So this is where you got to get your information. You got to understand how the system works if you want to actually do anything to understand your own individual election systems at your counties or in your state. Just follow what we did for here and match up what it is for yours, and you'll see exactly all the crimes, everything happens, and it's all done right in front of your face. Okay. Now there's no Charlie Kirk, there's no teams, there's nobody in Arizona. Nobody was here, nobody's done anything, because all of the information is stuff that we brought forward for months and years on how the system works. The election in Arizona, Maricopa County, was illegal before the first ballot got mailed out in 2024. Out, not in, out, which is in September, okay? So you add an illegal election from the start. All right, so These episodes, this episode that is an hour and 40 minutes long, and then I did a condensed version of 30 minutes that goes through all of this information in detail about what happened in 2024, which is how the system works. This happens every year. You just don't notice it because nobody's shown it to you before. Episode 330 and episode 328 on the Rumble, okay? Rumble is Save My Freedom. Everything is Save My Freedom. That's your election for 2024 in Maricopa County. On the left is the Secretary of State results that come through Maricopa County is on the right, okay? Everything can be shown right there. So what I want you to look at real quick, ballot progress reports. These were issued, public documents, public websites, every single time ballots were released in batches from the first ballot release on election night, which is about an hour after the polls close, through the end of the counting, which ended up on the 18th, 15th, technically, then the 18th, okay? So in the episode that we did before the election, which was episode 323, we explained to you how the system works from the time the election ends to the time that the last vote is quote unquote counted in 2022, and told you where to look, told you what websites to go to. And exactly what I said and showed you is exactly what happened in 2024. Because again, it's the system, okay? So what I did, and this is on Twitter for all of you who are paying attention, and you could share this information. Every single batch, there was 18 batches that were released of ballots, okay? Tabulated ballots and information ballot batches, Maricopa County to the Secretary of State's website. All I did was I cut and pasted them. I didn't transpose the numbers. I physically cut and pasted this so there would not be one digit that was off. And I put them in order so you can see them. This is on Twitter. All these posts are on Twitter, and I put them in the Substack, which is SaveMyFreedom.us. What I want you to look at, the number in the upper right-hand corner, negative 146,000, negative 112,000, okay? These are columns, right? These are columns. The right-hand column is the total number of estimated uncounted ballots. And the number on in the plus is how many ballots were actually counted and added. These are early ballots, okay? We're not going to go into detail because we don't have too, I want to just look at the numbers real quick. If you watch the videos, you'll get more details about the explanation of the different column numbers I go through on detail. But what you need to look at is you got 146,000 ballots that were reduced. Then the following batch, here's the dates, okay? The dates, oh, damn it, hang on. The dates is 11/6, and this is military time, okay? So between these two, this batch and this batch, both on the 6th, and here's on the 7th. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, the amount of ballots that were reduced is 146,000, and then 112,000, because the election day ballots were not from the door number 3, which you guys all know about that from 2022. Those were not actually counted because I watched it live on video. It's not a secret. Those ballots weren't tabulated until the 12th. And if you look here, 26,000, that's actually provisional ballots. So the only thing these can be is early ballots, okay? So you have 146,000 reduced ballots in this batch, 112,000 in this batch. That's 258,000 ballots, early ballots that were rejected or counted. Now, if you look here in this column, 51,000 plus the 72,000, okay? That's 123,000. So that's what they counted. The difference between the two is 134,000 ballots were rejected. Those were all early ballots, because there's nothing else they could be. Those 4,000 ballots that were from election day, those misreads that they tabulate later, I reduced them by the 4,037 that they were, just to give the benefit of that to Maricopa County. So that gives you 130,000 early ballots that were rejected in the very beginning of the results. But Maricopa County told you, and look at this. This is the early ballot rejection summary. Okay, this is from their canvass report. What does that say? It says that the amount of early ballots that were rejected were 8,559. They forgot about the 130,000 ballots in that batch in the very beginning. Okay, so Maricopa County has told you that they had less than 0.5% of early ballots rejected. And we just showed you that there's 130,000 that were missing. Now, You can come up with your own reasons, right? You can come up with your own reasons. But let's just say they front-loaded everything. They front-loaded everything, okay? And then they had to get rid of them because they're like, oh, we don't need them for Trump. We don't need them for Trump, okay? Just use your own. Those are opinions, assumptions, but I'm just looking at the hardcore numbers, okay? Look at that. Look at those numbers. We brought this to everybody's attention. Nobody cared. Nobody's fighting for it. Nobody wanted to acknowledge it. So I'm bringing it forward so you guys can see. Now, another thing that you need to see in the last batch, I'm going to go back here real quick. And then I know that you guys want to wrap this up. Again, these are in episodes 230 and is the short version, 30 minutes. And a small part that another student, it was number 328 is the longer version, okay? It's all in the video. I need you guys to watch that. So I want you to look at the last batch, okay? This is how Maricopa runs their operations. This is how the other counties do, but you just haven't looked yet. Look at the last batch. This is important. Maricopa County on the 14th, the last batch, batch number 17. 1750, 1150, 2475, 5,375 is the total, all right? Let's gonna jump forward. I put this into a nice graphic for everybody. This is the last batch of early ballots, okay? Because it tells you 1750 was the early ballots, okay? 1750 was the early ballots. There was 920 that were accepted, okay? They put that in the column. That means there was 830 rejected, which is a 47.4% rejection rate. So the actual rejection rate for Maricopa County was anywhere between 10.5 to 47.4% rejection, even though the county told you in there and certified that rejection rate was less than 0.5 of 1%, 0.467%, okay? It is statistically impossible for the last batch to have 47.4% rejection rate when they don't save all the bad ones for the end. They have no idea what was in there. As far as ballot chasing, none of that mattered throughout this election, okay? Again, you have no chain of custody for any of this stuff, okay? We showed you guys that one of the last times it was on here, and we've been talking about it since the primary, when this election was illegal before the first ballot got mailed out. Not mailed in, mailed out. And then this is just the consequences of what has transpired since. So you have 130,000 ballots that nobody knows where they are. Nobody has mentioned them. And do you know how many races that affects? Every single one of them. Okay, every single race. Not to mention some of them are really small margins. And in this graphic, okay, I'm going to tell you a little secret. In this graphic, I just talked about number 2. Number 4 is the last batch. I haven't mentioned number 3. The information that's sitting in number 3, we haven't brought it forward yet because it shows criminal intent. Okay, there's more to go along with that. And again, keep in mind, none of this information is top secret. This is all on their public websites. I have not received any of the public records requests that I have asked yet, which are the same ones that I've asked for 2022 and the 2024 primary. It's been, 42 days since I put in the request. There's 35 different items that if you want to actually review an election, properly audited and understand that you need all of this information. They can't say that they don't have it. They need to compile it. They needed it to do this canvas report. Okay, so they're withholding the information, but I don't even need that to show you the crimes that are being committed, maladministration, misconduct, whether it's intentional or not, it doesn't matter. You have election fraud. You have criminal intent, okay? So when will the axe fall? 2 minutes. So, all right, the other thing I want you to know is, remember how I told you guys that they erase the results, and there's no challenging. There's no challenging. It has to go through the Senate. There is no courts, and nobody's doing anything. Nobody has done anything. And we tried through Twitter, everybody. We tried through all the senators. Hundreds of thousands of people demanded their senators begin, and any senator just took one guy to do an investigation, and we gave him all the evidence. Nobody said anything. Again, the one man that can do anything, and the only person, here he is. I'm going to show you again. And I'm glad he made this statement right here. Anybody that cheats on the election is going to jail, and we can prove it for 2020, 2022, 2024. All the evidence is public. And even in the other thing that happened here too, which is part of their regular process in Arizona. They erase the results and rerun illegally, redo the entire elections. They did it this time between 53 and 63 vote centers, which was 21 to 25% of the voting centers. So I know Marley talks about disenfranchised voters. You have disenfranchised voters for every single of those vote centers. That and in 2022, there were 48,000 disenfranchised voters. How many elections did those affect? Every single race, okay? The entire election for Arizona, Maricopa County can be set aside going back to 2020, 2022, and 2024. This man right here on the screen, Donald J. Trump, the president of the United States, is the only person that is going to be able to do it. But how is that going to happen? What? How's that going to happen? You, everybody on this call, the people of the country need to go ahead and get real loud, okay? Get really loud and demand it. He said it. Now hold him to it because we have all the evidence. It's all public. There's even more, right? Which I haven't released yet, even though it's already public, but I just haven't focused on it because it's too much for everybody. It's too much. You guys have enough. And demand he does this because they don't even need to investigate. They just need to read. And then what they do is they can start prosecuting. The whole system needs to be exposed and dismantled. And that's it. There it is. That's all. But so go to savemyfreedom.us, subscribe to that, and you're going to join me in this MAGA Maha challenge that I just started. Okay. So I'm going to have more information. Steve's going to start putting that out because right now you need to focus on yourself. You need to focus on your health. You need to focus on getting physically fit, and you need to be ready for the battlefield because everybody needs to go ahead and hold them accountable. Okay. Start with Trump. Because nobody else is going to help us. Nobody else is going to do anything. It's up to the American people. Take your country back. All right? SaveMyFreedom.us. Thank you, Steve, Raj, everybody.
Happy
Do
New
it.
Year. You
Happy
got
New
it.
Year.
All
Thanks,
right,
guys.
close it down, Raj. Thank you for everybody. Want to say thank you to them, that everybody that helped us, brought us people, all the podcasters. We'll have another podcaster on the next meeting. Raj, you want to close it down?
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining this meeting. Please share the word about this event. We only have a limited email list, so we're going to ask you to get more people to this event.
We lost you, Raj.
Can you hear me now? 1, 2, can
Yep.
you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you all for being on this call. And so we're asking you for two things, please. Two things. One, please spread the word about this event to other people in your life. If you're at this event, that means you must have received an email from either Steve or myself. Our email list is limited, and furthermore, a lot of our emails get pushed into spam by big tech. So I'm looking for you. We are looking to you. Please get more people involved on this call by attending. Second request is if you know podcasters, people have an audience, please get that information over to Steve Stern because his team is actively looking to increase the network. You can see already, I don't know if for those of you that have been on this call for a while, as word has gotten out about the number of people that are listening to this.
We lost you again, Raj.
Have a great rest of the day, guys. Have a great week. We'll be on same time in a couple of weeks.
Take care. Hasta la vista.